Good afternoon, everybody. This is Steve Fletcher with a trumpet for my people. Today is October 27th, 2022, and I have been waiting a number of days to be able to share this information with you. I am very excited to be able to share all of this information with you, and a lot of pieces of the puzzle and a lot of things pointing to the winter solstice, Hanukkah, the midnight hour, the days of Noah, and the 10-year anniversary of the Mayan end of the world date on December 21st, 2012. So many pieces that are pointing to this time, and I want to share with you what I see. I'm very thankful that I'm here to be able to share this with you. The Lord called me back in 2012, gave me a sign in the sun on Midweek Hanukkah, and from there the revelations have not stopped coming. We are still here. The revelations of the times that we live in, of Obama, the Antichrist, and of all the things that are leading up to the beginning of the Great Tribulation, the rapture of the church. And I believe that there's very important information coming together now for December. Do you think that we are going into 2023? I sure hope not, and I do not think that we will go into 2023 as we came into 2022 all awestruck that we were still here. Why are we still here in 2022? Well, I think that 2022 is still the year of the rapture of the church, the beginning of the Great Tribulation. And I think that all the signs are pointing us now to the midnight hour, the beginning of winter, Hanukkah, the shortest day of the year, all of the connections to the days of Noah, which we'll get into. I have a lot of information here I want to share with you. Let's just take each one of these sections piece by piece, and let's begin at midnight. December 21st is the shortest day of the year. It's the longest night of the year, can be considered. Many say that it is the midnight sun, the midnight of the year, the longest night of the year, the midnight of the year. December 21st, the winter solstice. Exodus 12:29, and it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. The judgment of the firstborn came at midnight. And Samson lay until midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the doors of the gate of the city and the two posts, and went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of a hill that is before Hebron. The gates of the city were torn down at midnight. Psalm 119:62. At midnight I will rise to give thanks unto thee, because of thy righteous judgments. Again, the righteous judgment coming at midnight. Ruth 3:8. And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid, and turned himself, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. The surprise visit of a woman at the feet of the kinsman redeemer at midnight. Job 34:20, a very telling verse indeed. In a moment shall they die, and the people shall be troubled at midnight, and pass away, and the mighty shall be taken away without hand. Praise God. Glory to God. We have a scripture that talks about the mighty being taken away at midnight. The trouble coming upon the world at midnight. Of course, we know this all connects to Matthew 25:6. At midnight was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. The bridegroom cometh at midnight. And Mark 13:35 says, "Watch ye therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning." So we are told to watch. We don't know when the master comes. Therefore, we must watch. Do you understand? So just because we have not seen up till now when the master is coming, we don't know if he's coming at even or at midnight or at the cock crowing or in the morning, but we are to watch. Okay, so we are watching. Could it be now at this midnight hour that is coming up in December? Now we have the connection to winter. Very important biblical understanding. The connection to winter, December 21st, is the winter solstice, the beginning of winter, the end of the fall season, or if you want to consider it the end of summer in Israel, the beginning of the winter. From the very beginning of the Bible, winter is described for us in Genesis 8:22, "While the earth remaineth, seedtime and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease." Summer and winter, and here we have a conjunction of the winter solstice and the end of summer. Psalm 74:17, "Thou hast set all the borders of the earth, thou hast made summer and winter." So there's borders. There are borders that have been set to the earth. And part of the borders of the earth are the times that the earth lives from summer into winter. And there is a cutoff, and it's a border that is being crossed. Going from summer to winter is like a border that is being crossed, because it says, "Thou hast set the borders of the earth." Okay, so this end of summer, beginning of winter season is very key indeed. Isaiah 18:6, "They shall be left together unto the fowls of the mountains, and to the beasts of the earth. And the fowls shall summer upon them, and all the beasts of the earth shall winter upon them." Okay, we have the beasts of the earth that are coming upon the world in winter. The beasts of the earth shall winter upon them. Jeremiah 36:22 and 23. "Now the king sat in the winter house in the 9th month. There was a fire on the hearth burning before him. It came to pass that when Jehudi had read 3 or 4 leaves, he cut it with the penknife and cast it into the fire that was on the hearth, until all the roll was consumed in the fire that was on the hearth." And here we have in the winter house in the 9th month, and the book of the Lord, the word of the Lord was cast into the fire. And the beginning, this is a very powerful connection to the beginning of the great tribulation, when the truth will be trampled down into the streets, and the word of the Lord will be cut off from the people. In the winter time, Matthew 24:20, "Pray that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day." Pray that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. And here in John 10, verses 22 through 23, it says, "It was at Jerusalem, the feast of the dedication, and it was winter. Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch." Hanukkah in the New Testament, Jesus in the temple during the feast of the dedication, during Hanukkah, and it was winter. The winter solstice, December 21st, is the shortest day and the longest night of the year. The shortest day and the longest night of the year. Let us consider the winter solstice in comparison to Matthew 24:20 through 22. "But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should be no flesh saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. If there's anything that you get from this message to show how important this conjunction is at the winter solstice, Jesus shows us right here in Matthew 24:20 through 22, the connection to winter and the days being shortened. Do you think this is a coincidence that the winter solstice is the shortest day of the year? And he's talking about winter and the days being shortened? Pray that your flight be not in winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. December 21st, the winter solstice, is the shortest day of the year. Now, as we look at Tevet, because once we are in the middle of Hanukkah, because December 21st falls in the middle of Hanukkah, and it becomes the first day of the new month of Tevet. Tevet in the seasons of the year gives us the understanding of the beginning of winter. We are now in the Hebrew month of Tevet, the month in which winter reaches its height. This brings to mind that which is written in the Noah Torah portion, where God promises never again to curse the earth because of man. There he divides the year into seasons. So long as the earth remains, sowing time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night shall not cease. Tevet 1, the winter solstice. It is winter and snow blankets the earth. The bare trees and the simple lines of the earth give a stark beauty to the world. Frost makes patterns on the glass. The days are short. The darkness dominates the sky. The moon is hidden. Then Chanukah, the festival of fire, comes in a blaze of celebration. After the autumn harvest, which marks the descent into spirit dream time and the buried root of life, Chanukah marks the emergence out of that root of a new light into the world. Just as a seed produces a sprout when the days begin to lengthen, the season of the winter solstice invites us to awaken into newness and hope. Chanukah begins on the 25th of the Hebrew month of Kislev. This is the anniversary, some say, of the day the Israelites finished giving beautiful materials for the tabernacle, the Shekinah's dwelling place. The gifts represent the outpouring of the heart. Chanukah itself gives a gift of the heart, the promise of new light in the world. At the winter solstice, deep in the inwardness of winter, the season turns and the light begins to grow again. The Chanukah menorah begins with a single light and ends with many. So too, the sun begins as a distant, dull light and ends in the blazing warmth of spring. Hanukkah holds a key to understanding Daniel's reference to the abomination of desolation. Hanukkah holds a key to understanding Jesus' reference to the abomination of desolation. The abomination of desolation occurred during the time of Hanukkah, which was an 8-day festival from the 25th day of Kislev to the 2nd day of Tevet. An 8-day festival. Tevet marks Midweek Hanukkah, the new moon, and it marks the beginning of winter. The abomination of desolation happened during the timing of Hanukkah. And Daniel tells us that the abomination takes place in the middle of the week. This is part of the revelation that the Lord gave me back in 2012 when God gave me a sign in the sun on Midweek Hanukkah, December 12th, 2012. Midweek Hanukkah. And here we have Midweek Hanukkah between December 21st and December 22nd of 2022. Taking into consideration what Daniel says about the abomination of desolation in Daniel 9:27, he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. The abomination of desolation happens midweek. December 21st, 2022 is the 10-year anniversary of the Mayan end of the world date. 10 years. Throughout the Bible, the number 10 is given as a time of trial or a time of testing. Revelation 2:10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. A 10-day period or a 10-year period of trial from the Mayan end of the world date, December 21st, 2012, to the winter solstice, December 21st, 2022. 10 years. We also see a connection with the 10 virgins and the connection to midnight. Then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto the 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, and took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. Here is a very powerful understanding from 2012 to 2022. We have 5 wise virgins and we have 5 foolish virgins. So they were virgins that were looking for the coming of Christ. They were looking to the midnight hour, hoping for the return of Christ. And all of those that were leading up to the year of 2017, from 2012 to 2017, we have all of the people that were watching for the coming of Christ. And then we had 2017 came and went. And how many people after the Revelation 12 sign, when everything was looking so powerful and so positive and so in a place of convergence in the year of 2017, how many people let their oil run dry and walked away from watching for the return of Jesus Christ? I think 2017 was a very key time where so many people who were anxiously waiting for the return of Christ got despaired and walked away and looked away from the coming of Christ, decided to not continue waiting for the coming of Christ, to not remain actively watching, to just go back to life as it was. And then you have all of the things that have happened since 2017 to now to 2022, and how many trials and temptations and tests and temptations of the enemy that have come, and how many people have fallen into the temptations of the enemy and the snare that was set up. This whole snare that took place over the last 2 to 3 years. You know what I'm talking about. The snare that has come. And the people that were no longer watching for the return of Christ, no longer seeing the importance of the time that we were living in, from the end of the 70 years of Israel and how all of this is leading to where we are now, to the beginning of the Great Tribulation, after a 4 or 5 year delay, right? You have a 70-year time frame of the rebirth of Israel, and then you have a 4-year delay of the fig tree. So from 2018, we're still in 2022. You see how this brings us to the 70 plus the 4 years into 2022. But I think that a lot of people, the foolish virgins, just lost the oil in their lamps and stopped looking for the coming of Christ. And then there are those who are never going to stop looking. It doesn't matter how many trials we have to go through. We're still here on the wall, watching, trying to understand, seeing, looking, hoping. Okay? He didn't come yesterday, so maybe he'll come tomorrow. So that's all we can do, is wait and watch. The kingdom of heaven shall be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps, but took no oil with them. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. While the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. And at midnight there was a cry made, Behold, the bridegroom cometh, go ye out to meet him. So all of the virgins slumbered and slept. But it's one thing to slumber and sleep with oil in your lamp, and it's another to slumber and sleep with no oil in your lamp. And when the time comes, and the bridegroom comes, and you are awakened out of your sleep, what are you going to do if you have no oil in your lamp? So there is a spiritual sleep and there is a physical sleep. And I think this refers to a physical sleep, just a tiredness, not a spiritual sleep. The spiritual sleep, those who have fallen asleep spiritually, are those who have no oil in their lamps. But those who have simply fallen asleep physically are ones who have maintained oil in their lamps. And when they hear that trumpet blast, when they hear that midnight cry, they are ready to go. They have oil in their lamps. And all of this that we are watching leading up into December is connected to these last 2 great signs: a solar eclipse over Israel on October 25th that just happened, and a lunar eclipse over the Pacific Ring of Fire that will happen on November 8th. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. I believe these 2 eclipses are so significant and so important because there will not be another solar eclipse over Israel until 2027. And there will not be another full moon lunar eclipse anywhere in the world until 2025. 2.5 years until the next total lunar blood moon eclipse. Okay? And if the Bible says the sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come, I believe this is a sign just before his coming that there will be a solar and lunar eclipse together in the same cycle just before he comes. If that is the case, then we have to be close to his return now, because there will not be another total lunar eclipse, blood moon eclipse, until March of 2025. 2.5 more years for another blood moon. The sun shall be turned into darkness, the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of the Lord come. So we have a partial solar eclipse over Israel on October 25th, 2022. We have a total lunar eclipse over the Pacific Ring of Fire on November 8th. Partial eclipse, as I said, over Israel. And here is in the constellation, the solar eclipse that happened is in the constellation of Virgo, conjoined with Venus, clothed with the sun. The Virgo, there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, upon her head a crown of 12 stars. She, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And here we have Virgo crowned with the sun, the moon at her feet, Venus right there in conjunction, and this solar eclipse was over Israel. Then we have the Pacific Ring of Fire eclipse on November 8th, a perfect total lunar eclipse over the Pacific Ring of Fire. The term Ring of Fire is often referred to the crowning event in the birthing process. It's when the baby's head is becoming visible in the birth canal after the woman has fully dilated. It's the home stretch in more ways than one. The Ring of Fire is the birthing event, the crowning event of the baby. The November 8th total lunar eclipse is in the constellation of Aries, representing the lamb or the ram. Aries. Revelation 12:11 says, they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And we have a blood moon in the Lamb on November 8th, connected to the birthing event over the Pacific Ring of Fire. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Now, how is all of this connected to the days of Noah? 3 days after the blood moon on November 8th is the day the flood began, the 17th of Kesvan. The 17th day of Kesvan is the day the flood began, November 11th. Then how many days did it rain? Once the flood began, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Even Hollywood movies have 40 days and 40 nights and the ark. The ark, okay, connected to the 40 days and the 40 nights of the flood. The flood was 40 days on the earth. The waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. When was the ark lifted up? After 40 days. The ark was lifted up after 40 days. The flood began, and the ark was lifted up after 40 days. From the day the flood begins on November 11th, adding 40 days, where does that bring us? To the winter solstice, to midweek Hanukkah, to the midnight hour. May your flight be not in winter. The days of Noah, connected to the solar and lunar eclipse, the beginning of the flood, 40 days to midweek Hanukkah. Hanukkah giving us the understanding of the abomination of desolation that took place in the middle of the week. Unless those days had been shortened, no flesh would be saved. December 21st is the shortest day of the year. December 18th is the beginning of Hanukkah. And from the blood moon on November 8th, 40 days brings us to the beginning of Hanukkah. And from the day the flood begins on November 11th, 40 days brings us to midweek Hanukkah, the winter solstice on December 21st. I believe everything is pointing us now to Hanukkah. Many are still watching that the calendar is off and that somehow right now we're starting over again the Feast of Trumpets and the Day of Atonement and the Feast of Tabernacles. But I do not see that as being the case at all. I believe that the calendar is right. I believe that we are on track right now. We're in the 8th month. We're in the 8th month now after the solar eclipse. The 8th month of Chesvan began. And now we're leading up to the 9th month of Kislev, leading up to the timing of Hanukkah in December. And this is all the terminology that the Bible gives us about the coming of the Great Tribulation. It's the midnight hour. It's winter. The days will be shortened, as in the days of Noah. You've got the abomination of desolation. Jesus said, when you see the abomination of desolation, let your flight be not in winter. Unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. 10 years of trial and testing upon the earth from the great day that the world was supposed to end on December 21st, 2012. 10 days of tribulation. 10 years of testing. And now the great conjunction is coming. Just as there was a great conjunction 2 years ago of Jupiter and Saturn on December 21st. Now we have a great conjunction of midnight, winter, Hanukkah, the days of Noah, and the shortest day of the earth, the longest night, the darkest day of the year to mark the beginning of the Great Tribulation. And I believe all of these signs are true and perfect. And I'm just hoping that this is the end of this puzzle that we have been trying to understand for 10 years now. So I received a sign on December 12th of 2012. Recently, it's been hard for me in many ways to continue because the road seems so long and so hard and so dark and so many misunderstandings, and we're trying to understand, and yet we seem to be farther and farther away from true understanding. But all I can say is I think the Lord has given me a calling that I must fulfill until the end. So even when I try to walk away or not do anything or not say anything, it's like my mind just keeps going back and back and back and back. And I see all of these things that I just cannot deny and avoid. And so over the last days and weeks, I have been thinking about all of this stuff, and really more than anything else, more than just December 12th and December 13th and the digital currency that they're looking to start, it comes down to the sign that God gave me was Midweek Hanukkah, and I think that is the most important sign that I ever received, that we will ever receive. Jesus gave us the clues in Matthew 24. When you see the abomination of desolation, may your flight not be in winter. The abomination happened midweek, and it was midnight when the bridegroom came. And this is what I see now, all coming together on December 21st of 2022. I pray you guys are blessed. Have a wonderful afternoon. This is Steve Fletcher with the trumpet for my people. The sign of his coming revealed.